Okay, so picture this. You've got a decent job. Maybe not your dream job, but a solid one. You're making, I don't know, 70, 80, maybe $100,000 a year. You have a house with a mortgage that felt huge when you signed it, but everyone said was a good investment. You've got a car payment. Actually, you might have two. You go on 1 or 2 vacations a year. Nothing extravagant, just enough to recharge. You're contributing to your 401k, at least a little bit, because your HR person showed you a graph once and it scared you into doing it. And on the surface, on the actual visible surface of your life, things look fine. Things look like what success is supposed to look like. But there's this quiet, persistent hum underneath all of it. This low-grade financial anxiety that never quite goes away. And sometimes, late at night or in the car on a Tuesday, you run the numbers in your head. When can I actually retire? And the answer that comes back is always something like 67, 68, maybe 70 if I can keep my knees working. And you think, okay, that can't be right. I'm doing all the things. Why does it feel like I'm running in place? My name is Rick, and I've spent the better part of the last 8 years completely obsessed with this question. Why do smart, hardworking, genuinely responsible people end up financially stuck? Not broke, not reckless, just stuck, delayed. Perpetually a decade away from the finish line. And what I've found, honestly, is that the trap isn't stupidity. It's not laziness. It's something way more interesting and way more insidious than that. It's a trap that's almost perfectly designed to catch the people who are trying the hardest. By the time we're done here, I want you to see your financial life a little differently. Not in a sell everything and move to a van kind of way, but in a way that might quietly shift which direction you're rowing. Let's start at the beginning, which is usually the raise. You get a raise, a good one. Maybe a 10 or 15% bump, and for a brief, beautiful moment, you feel genuinely wealthy. You think about how that extra money is going to change things, and then, slowly, almost without conscious decisions being made, your life expands to fill the new income. You upgrade the car lease, you move to a slightly nicer apartment, or you start seriously looking at bigger houses because, well, you can afford it now. You start ordering the better wine at dinner. Not expensive wine, just better wine. You get a gym membership at the nicer place. These are all small things individually, completely reasonable things. But here's what's actually happening underneath all of it. Your baseline, the floor of what your life costs just to maintain, just went up. And it didn't go up by a little. It usually goes up by almost exactly as much as your income went up. Which means the raise, in terms of actual wealth-building capacity, basically disappeared. You earned more. You saved the same. You just leveled up the treadmill. Economists call this lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep. I call it the ratchet effect because a ratchet only moves in one direction. Once your lifestyle expands to a certain level, it becomes psychologically very difficult to compress it back down. You're not going to cancel the gym membership. You're not going to go back to the cheaper apartment. You've anchored yourself to a new standard of normal, and anything below it starts to feel like deprivation, even if it would have felt luxurious to you 5 years ago. And here's the part that really gets me. This isn't weakness. This is how human psychology is built. We adapt to our circumstances. It's called hedonic adaptation, and it's actually a feature of the human mind, not a bug. It helps us recover from hardship. But in a consumer economy, it also means that more almost never feels like enough for very long. The actionable truth here is almost annoyingly simple. The moment you get a raise, automate a meaningful portion of it, say half, directly into savings or investments before you ever see it, not after you budget. Before. Because if you see it, you will spend it. Not because you're irresponsible, because you're human. Okay? I want to be careful here because I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, and I'm not saying what people sometimes assume I'm going to say. I'm not saying don't buy a house. I'm saying stop calling your house an investment. It's not. Not in the way that actually builds retirement wealth. Here's the thing. Nobody puts in the brochure. Your house requires money, constantly. Property taxes, insurance, maintenance, repairs. the roof that needed replacing, the HVAC that died in August, the water heater, the driveway. Studies consistently show that homeowners spend between 1 and 3% of their home's value per year just on maintenance. On a $400,000 house, that's $4,000 to $12,000 a year just to keep it from deteriorating. That money doesn't build equity, it just evaporates. And yes, your house will probably appreciate in value. Historically, real estate appreciates at roughly the rate of inflation, about 2 to 3% annually in real terms, which sounds okay until you realize the stock market has historically returned somewhere around 7 to 10% annually in real terms. That's not a small gap. Over 30 years, that gap is the difference between a comfortable retirement and a delayed one. But here's where it gets really interesting, because middle-class families don't just buy a house and stop. They buy a house and then they buy a bigger house when the kids come, and then maybe a third house, closer to the good school district. Each time, they're resetting the mortgage clock, pulling out equity, capitalizing on appreciation, and then immediately reinvesting it into more real estate rather than liquid, compounding investments. The equity in your house is largely trapped. You can't spend it without selling or borrowing, and borrowing against it, hello home equity loan, tends to be a sneaky way of just adding more debt to the pile. I have a friend, I won't say his name, he'd kill me, who moved houses 3 times in 12 years, each time in a slightly better neighborhood, each time convinced he was building wealth. He's in his mid-50s now with a beautiful home and almost nothing in liquid retirement savings because every dollar of appreciation got recycled into the next upgrade. His retirement is his house, which means his retirement plan is sell the house, move somewhere cheaper, and hope the math works out. Which is fine, I guess, but it's not the plan he thought he had. The takeaway isn't don't buy. The takeaway is be honest about what your house actually is. It's shelter. It might be a lovely community. It's a forced savings mechanism of modest returns, but it's not a retirement account. Don't let it eat the money that should be compounding somewhere else. This one is subtle and kind of boring, which is exactly why it's so dangerous. We now live in an economy that is specifically, deliberately, brilliantly engineered to extract money from you in small, monthly, easily forgettable increments. Streaming services, software subscriptions, insurance add-ons you said yes to without reading, extended warranties, gym memberships you use 4 times a year, apps with auto-renewing annual fees, cloud storage upgrades, premium tiers of free services, the second phone line, the parking pass, the meal kit service you meant to cancel. Individually, none of these are ruinous. $20 here, $15 there. But the middle-class household in 2025 is often carrying, and I've seen this in actual financial audits of real households, anywhere from $800 to $1,500 per month in recurring subscriptions and commitments that are essentially on autopilot. Money leaving the account that the family couldn't name if you asked them on a Tuesday morning. $800 a month is $9,600 a year. Invested at a 7% annual return over 20 years, that's about $460,000. Just from canceling things you forgot you were paying for. I'm not even exaggerating for effect. The math is just the math. There's also a darker layer here, which is the way monthly payments psychologically distort our sense of affordability. A car that costs $800 a month doesn't feel like a $96,000 car over 10 years. It feels like $800, manageable. And so we say yes to things we would never say yes to if the full price were displayed up front, because the full price is hidden inside the comfortable rhythm of the monthly payment. Every financial product in your life, insurance, car, phone, software, is designed to present itself as a monthly figure because monthly figures feel small. This is not an accident. Do a subscription audit. Seriously, just do it. Go through your bank and credit card statements for the last 3 months and highlight every recurring charge. Circle the ones you don't immediately recognize. That exercise alone for most people is worth a few $100s a month in found money. Here is the uncomfortable one. A lot of middle-class spending, maybe most of it, is not actually about the thing being purchased. It's about what the thing communicates to other people. The car in the driveway, the neighborhood, the brand of shoes on the kids, the kitchen renovation, The annual beach vacation that has to be shared on Instagram. We spend, and I'm including myself in this because I've done it too, not because we genuinely need or even deeply want the thing, but because the absence of the thing feels like a statement. It feels like falling behind. It feels like admitting something. Veblen goods, positional consumption, keeping up with the Joneses. There are 100 academic names for this, but the simple version is, we are deeply social creatures, and we use money to communicate status and belonging. This isn't shameful, it's ancient and human and completely understandable, but it is devastatingly expensive when you do it unconsciously. The middle class is, uniquely vulnerable to this trap, and I say that with real empathy, not condescension, because genuinely wealthy people with actual multi-generational wealth, often don't feel the status pressure in the same way. They're secure. They don't need the new car to signal success because their success isn't in question. But the middle class is aspirational by definition. You're climbing, and climbing requires signaling that you're climbing. So you buy the things that say, I am successful, before you actually have the savings that would make you financially successful. You're performing prosperity rather than building it. The question worth sitting with, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, I mean it as a genuinely useful exercise, is, who are you buying this for? Not rhetorically. Actually think about it. The kitchen renovation, the car, the private school. If no one could see it, would you still do it? If the answer is yes, great, maybe you genuinely value it. If the answer makes you a little uncomfortable, that discomfort is information worth paying attention to. Here's where I want to slow down and just talk about numbers for a second. Not in a scary way, just honestly. Most middle-class families have a rough, vague plan for retirement that goes something like, I'll max out my 401k someday when things calm down financially, I'll pay off the house, the kids will be through college, and then I'll really start saving aggressively in my late 40s or early 50s. This plan is so common that it almost feels like conventional wisdom, and it is, quietly, one of the most expensive financial mistakes a person can make. Because of compounding, because $1 invested at 35 is worth dramatically more than $1 invested at 50, and that gap isn't linear, it's exponential. A single dollar invested at 35, assuming a 7% annual return, becomes about $10.60 by age 65. That same dollar invested at 50 becomes about $3.80 by 65. The person who waits until 50 doesn't just have fewer years, they have fundamentally less firepower per dollar because they've robbed themselves of the compounding years that do the heavy lifting. The households that retire comfortably, and I've looked at a lot of data on this, almost universally have one thing in common. They started investing meaningfully early, and they didn't stop. They didn't necessarily earn more. They didn't necessarily make brilliant investment choices. They just started earlier and stayed consistent. That's it. That's basically the whole secret, and it's free information that's been available forever. And yet the average American hits 60 with somewhere around $60,000 to $100,000 in retirement savings, which, with the 4% withdrawal rule, is income of about $2,000 to $4,000 a year from savings. That's not retirement. That's a supplement to Social Security, which is itself not designed to be a standalone retirement income. The middle-class trap, at its core, is that it delays serious investing by a decade or two. Precisely the decade or two where compounding does its most important work. And it delays it not because people are foolish, but because life keeps presenting legitimate, reasonable, culturally approved uses for money. The house, the kids, the cars, the lifestyle that looks like success. All the spending is defensible. None of it is crazy. And yet the cumulative effect is arriving at 55 with a nice life and an underfunded future. So, let me bring this back to earth for a second. I don't want you to walk away from this feeling like your life choices have been a series of elegant mistakes, or that you need to gut your lifestyle and move somewhere cold and frugal and joyless. That's not the point. The point is something quieter than that. The middle-class trap isn't about poverty. It's about proximity to wealth without the mindset that actually creates it. It's about doing most of the right things, working hard, owning a home, contributing something to retirement, living a decent life, but being caught by a handful of invisible forces that redirect money away from the future version of you who will need it most. Lifestyle inflation that expands to meet every raise. A house that masquerades as an investment while consuming capital. A subscription economy that slowly, imperceptibly drains hundreds of dollars a month. Status spending driven by social pressure rather than genuine desire. And a retirement savings timeline that keeps getting pushed back because there's always a good reason to wait. None of these are moral failures. They're predictable human responses to the environment we live in. But predictable doesn't mean inevitable. And once you can see the shape of the trap, you can start to step around it. You don't have to make dramatic changes. You probably don't have to earn more. You might just need to redirect a few $100s a month toward investments earlier than feels comfortable. You might need to audit the recurring charges bleeding out of your account quietly every month. You might need to ask just once who you're actually buying certain things for. You might need to stop calling your house your retirement plan and start building one alongside it. The people who retire early, not the tech millionaires, just the regular people who somehow stop working at 58 instead of 68, they're usually not smarter than you. They just saw the trap a little earlier. And they made boring, consistent, unglamorous decisions that compounded quietly in the background while everyone else was optimizing their lifestyle. You can do the same thing. It's not too late, and it's not as complicated as the financial industry wants you to believe. Start earlier than feels necessary. Spend less on the things that won't matter in 10 years, and let time do the work that willpower and hustle alone can't. That's the whole thing, really. The trap is real, but it has a door. You just have to know where to look for it. Now, if you found this video valuable, make sure to press that like button, subscribe to this channel, and comment your thoughts. I read every single one of them. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.